Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Daily Roundup on this, a Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host. Folks, do you know that today is National Sleepover Day? I asked if I could come over and enjoy a sleepover. It was a hard no. Apparently, her pajamas are still at the dry cleaners. She is the she-devil with a spatula. She is the Khaleesi of the greater Cobourg area. She is Tamara Ugolini. How you doing there, Tamara?
You know, I'm doing all right knowing that you're not coming for a sleepover, David.
How dare
that
you?
That would be so bizarre. And I wonder what Lady Menzies would think.
Yeah,
we'll have to reach out to her for comment.
Well, there's some things we keep secret from Lady Menzoid, but look, it's all good fun. It says National Sleepover Day provides an opportunity once again for girls to confide in their friends in a way that can be inspiring, therapeutic, and confidence building. Tamara,
we kind of do that right here and now. Look at us, we're girlfriends.
Yeah, but can you define a girl? I know there's a U.S. Supreme Court justice that can't.
Yeah, it's all the rage these days. I certainly can define myself as an adult female, a woman, uterus-owning, lactating woman.
Maybe what I have to do, folks, is strap on those Z-cup breasts in my persona as Busty Menzoid.
There, then you can come for a sleepover.
Try getting pajamas to fit that.
Good luck.
But we digress. Tamara Ugolini, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah, we're not trying to invite Menzies over for a sleepover with his strap-on breasts. That's for certain. So
that's even creeping me out.
Next report coming soon. So if you're joining us at home, this is our daily live stream where we dissect and provide comment on some of the news stories of the day that matter to you most and to us as well. So we're streaming on a few different platforms, and actually today we are test running our very first time streaming on Locals. So if you haven't checked it out, locals.com, we are doing a troubleshoot for that platform. It's exclusive right now for Rebel News Plus members. So if you scroll down depending on what platform you're joining us on, there should be a description box that you can join the link. You can follow the link rather to join us through the Locals platform. It's a great way to connect and kind of a one-stop shop for all of your news that we put out every day in the content. But regardless, we're also streaming on those other four kind of typical platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Getter, and Twitter. So now we are officially adding a fifth one into the mix, which is locals.com. And I think that later on in the stream, we're going to get into some nitty-gritty science questioning topics. So we'll give you a fair warning, but because we have been completely demonetized by YouTube for going against their community standards for simply questioning certain narratives, we can no longer risk questioning those narratives on that platform. And so you'll have to join us on one of those other platforms: Rumble, Twitter, Getter, or Locals, if you're able to access it. Again, we're troubleshooting it, so we'd love to hear your feedback if you're having any issues or what kind of things are happening on the front lines there trying to get on that platform. But we'll give you a fair warning. When we get off of YouTube, we don't want to lose all of our YouTube subscribers. We have built up a great following and a great platform there, so we would hate to disevade all of those subscribers, but we will kind of coax you onto another platform when we get into some of this nitty-gritty COVID questioning stuff, but that will be a bit later on, and we'll give you a fair warning.
Well, you know, Tamara, I got to tell you, when it comes to Locals, I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, so Locals meant a free call as opposed to long distance. And I'll tell you, I know you're younger than I am, but I remember when Bell had a monopoly. You know, my folks would scream at me, "Menzies, it's your aunt from Hamilton calling," and you would run like the Flash because it was like
long distance.
$2.35 a minute,
Yeah.
and those were 1970s dollars. Oh boy, did Bell ever screw us big time until competition came along, and now who cares? You can call the world with your cell phone, can't you?
Yeah, that's when phones had cords, right? They were hardwired into the wall.
I still have one of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a time capsule there.
Well, when the EMP comes, we'll see who's lying. But we digress again. Well,
right.
Tamara, oh boy, more fun and frivolity from the Liberal convention over the weekend. We got blackface, and we'll play a video, alleging that over the past 8 years, I don't know what he means by the word we. Does it mean the Liberal Party or Canadians in general? But he said we've been making progress. Ask yourself, folks, do you feel more free than you did 8 years ago? Do you feel richer from an economic perspective than you did 8 years ago? Mm-hmm. So I am of the assumption, Tamara, with that pronoun we, he doesn't mean we the people. Maybe he means the we charity. Maybe
yeah, they're doing all right.
They're doing just fine. Drove by their headquarters at Parliament and Queen on the weekend. First thing I noticed, it's like a Taj Mahal temple for a charity, and it didn't look like anyone was home. It looked like everybody was working from home.
Probably are.
Yeah, so why did they spend presumably millions and millions of dollars on that temple? Maybe it's a real estate play, wouldn't put it past them, but I'm going off on a tangerine here. So let's hear what Blackface himself has to say about these past 8 miserable years.
Hey, Pierre Poilievre, it's time for you to wake up. Wake up. Wake up to the fact that a gender-balanced cabinet is a good thing and that women fully participating in the workforce is a good thing, not something to snub when it gets a shout-out from the President of the United States in our House of Commons. Oh. Wake up to the fact that under our government, fewer persons with disabilities are facing poverty, and in fact, Canada's poverty rates has been cut in half since 2015. Wake up to the fact that more moms are building careers because we've made childcare more affordable. And by the way, when we see that women's participation in the economy has reached an all-time high, let me tell you something. $10 a day childcare is not woke policy, it's economic policy.
So much to unpack there.
Oh, Tamara, indeed. I mean, the first thing that strikes me is the constant cheering, the constant standing ovation. It is grist in the mill that proves Dan McTeague's point, and Dan McTeague was a Liberal that sat on the House of Commons for 18 years, folks. And so this ex-Liberal says that the Liberal Party of Canada right now is a cult. You know, all of the things that Trudeau was trumpeting there, he's talking about the poverty rate cut in half. That's baloney. Visually, all of our major cities are, you know, the infiltration of tent cities is, I've never seen anything like it, Tamara. This is a government, by the way, when we look at the hardcore numbers, $1 trillion deficit, you know. We also, and this business is pandering to women, the gender-based cabinet. You know what I say, Tamara? That was one of his first things when he did the 50-50 cabinet in 2015. When you look at that, maybe you're doing a disservice to female MPs. What if there are more female MPs deserving of a cabinet position than 50%, right? You know, so, you know, again, it's not a meritocracy. It's a, what do they call it? A diversity hiring policy.
Yep.
And
not based on merit, but just the fact that you're a visible minority.
100%. And I just want to say also, speaking of 8 years, the guest of honor at this Liberal convention was Hillary
yes.
Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, Tamara, in 2016, when she ran for president, Hillary Clinton was already yesterday's newspaper. I mean, Trudeau, for God's sakes, buy a calendar. And to get an endorsement from the President of the United States right now, this would be Sleepy Joe Biden. Holy mackerel, you're wearing that as a badge of honor? This guy doesn't even know what month of the year it's in. I mean, Tamara, I want to hear you unpack this.
Old washed up Hillary Clinton.
Oh, sad.
Well, the poverty cuts, that's interesting because there is a certain allotted amount that people on, for instance, disability receive per month. And they used to be able to barely squeak by. You could get by on, if you had a disability and you were on these payments, WSIB, whatever it is. But now, as we face record inflation, record tax hikes, as these MPs give themselves their yearly April Fool's Day raise, which is not an April Fool's Day joke, it is in fact real. The people who were kind of teetering on that cusp of poverty are now very well into the throes of poverty because their checks no longer go as far to pay their rent.
Yep.
Their grocery bills are 3 times as much as they were even a year and a half ago. Gas is outlandishly expensive, whether it be to heat your home or fuel your vehicle. I mean, the cost of literally everything has skyrocketed. So to try to say that you have pulled people out of poverty in midst of record inflation, record bloating of the bureaucracy is so out of touch. It is disgusting. And then this $10 a day childcare business, like, I don't know which mothers would prioritize quantity of childcare, so that $10 a day over quality. Like, are these really quality providers that you're finding at $10 a day? I would be, I would be interested to know if that holds up in that $10 a day childcare is a good policy in that regard. And what about just simply not putting such a financial burden on the Canadian taxpayer that both parents have to work full time so that they need $10 a day childcare? What about if one parent was able to work part time or have a family member stay home with their children? This government also has a policy in place tax wise that you cannot pay a family member for childcare and claim it as a taxable benefit. The childcare that you pay for must be out of arm's length. So you have to pay an outsider to take care of your children, even if you have a willing and able family member to do so, because in order to get that tax break, you can't have someone within your family receiving those funds. So it's really interesting that they platform and they campaign on these sorts of ideas. And then when you look into the nitty-gritty of it, it actually doesn't make any logical sense and could do a lot. There's a lot of discrepancies here that could actually serve families and the children and their mothers and fathers a lot better than what currently exists. And there's the carbon tax too, right? And I was looking at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. So Franco Terrazzano has been on this beat and on this file, holding the accountability for the Canadian taxpayer. One of his articles goes into the fact that the carbon tax is costing taxpayers $847 every year. And that might seem like pennies to someone who isn't facing the throes of record inflation. But this is despite the rebates, right, that the same government promised us would counteract for and actually pay out money to the taxpayers and not cost them anything. It was all under the guise of being beneficial. And we've shown in real time that wasn't accurate.
You mean they lied to us?
Who would have thought?
On that note, Tamara, carbon taxes. Here's an unforced error by the government. Things are already so bad with interest rates and inflation, and carbon tax is high-grade petrol being tossed on the dumpster fire. And it's all about wokeism. It's all about virtue signaling. We have to save the planet because we're such a grotesque polluter when, of course, the statistics show otherwise. You want to look at countries like China, countries like India, that, coal-burning countries in which coal-burning factories are being added every year. But even if you believed in man-made climate change, there is an out, I would say, Tamara, a political out and a common sense out for this government. And that is to say, as much as we believe in carbon taxes, and there's another one coming in July, by the way.
Yes.
At this time, with so many Canadians suffering, and believe me, they are suffering. I saw a photo the other day in a mainstream newspaper. It was a lineup on Front Street in Toronto for a food bank.
Banks, yes.
It was unbelievable. It looked like the lineup at Canada's Wonderland for the Leviathan on Dominion Day. It was gross. But they could say, we have to suspend these carbon taxes, plural.
Easy.
We have to put more money back into the pockets of consumers. And by the way, here's the thing about a carbon tax. It's a ripple effect. The groceries get to your supermarket. The drugs get to your pharmacy by truck. And when they have to pay higher, and when these retail outlets, all their costs go up, well, what do you think is going to happen? The price is going to further go up, already fueling a horrendous inflation rate. But no, they won't do it. They are sticking to this. We got to save the planet. I find this infuriating and irresponsible, Tamara.
Well, and yeah, I mean, the companies and the corporations themselves, they're not eating up that increase.
No.
They're putting that onto the consumer. So,
Yep.
of course, that makes sense. And, the MPs could have also stated anytime over the last 3 years, as we've seen complete economic devastation by the policies instituted by this same government due to the COVID-19 hysteria. They could have just said, we're going to pause our pay raise this year or next year.
Yeah.
Or the year after. But no, they have full speed ahead. They've gone ahead with their raises. Again, by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, 80,000 bureaucratic raises have been received over the last 3 years. And Budget 2023 will see Canada in more deficit and higher taxes that seem to be perpetual, right? There's no end in sight for this taxation and these deficits. It's actually just increasing further and further. And I mean, this is the same government that in 2022 overspent their own budget by $18 billion. That's a B, $18 billion over their own budget.
Yeah.
You want to say that they're fiscally responsible? This is insane.
Oh, but Joe Biden gives the blackface liberals a seal of approval, Tamara.
$10 a day childcare.
Yeah,
Yay.
who are we to criticize? And by the way, we began this segment, folks, with me asking somewhat rhetorically, are you better off financially? Are you better off from a freedom perspective? Well, we just covered the finances, which is a disaster of titanic proportions. But on the freedom file, this is absolutely terrifying to me, Tamara. Speaking as a journalist, this liberal policy, it's a proposal to limit online publication to material, quote, whose sources can be traced, end quote. So in other words, the government has already bought off the mainstream media, and now what they want to do for all the outliers out there is to find out who your sources are and to pre-approve it. That's not journalism anymore, folks. That's advertising. That's propaganda by the government. This is absolutely outrageous. This is Banana Republic stuff, Tamara.
It's literally state-sanctioned propaganda. And it comes from the CBC, surprisingly. Before we get into that, the Michael Geist article, we had it up on the screen there. Maybe we can pull it up again. But I was shocked to hear the CBC was denouncing these policies. They've been silent throughout the decimation of press freedoms throughout the last few years, and they have been really the purveyor of the state-sanctioned propaganda being pushed on the masses through the COVID hysteria. They were at the helm of ensuring public compliance and educating the masses, and anyone who disagreed or disavowed or questioned was smeared as disinformation and misinformation. And so here they have a piece posted just yesterday evening. Liberals' convention pitch to fight online disinformation denounced as assault on free press. Wow, I'm shocked to hear that from the not so free press. But basically it says that without debate, the Liberal Party members passed a policy resolution to combat online disinformation this weekend that critics warn could give the government control over Canadian media outlets. The resolution calls for the Liberals to explore options to hold online information services accountable for the veracity of material published on their platforms and to limit publication only to material whose sources can be traced, as you mentioned.
And if I may jump in here, Tamara, not part of the article, but let me look at the timeline here. Why would the blackface liberals be so hell-bent on tracing sources all of a sudden? Oh, yeah. It was just a couple of months ago that a whistleblower, an anonymous one with CSIS, raised the specter of Chinese interference and Chinese collusion in our last couple of federal elections. The Liberals are desperate to find out who that whistleblower is. I think that person should be given the Medal of Honor, quite frankly. But that, I think, is the unspoken story here. So there's going to be no more journalists quoting from unnamed sources. I'll be frank. You really want a source. You want to put a name and a face to that information. But sometimes, like this, is a perfect example where you can't, because that agent would be terminated and maybe even sued. So there is a time and a place for unnamed sources. And I can tell you, Tamara, through my journalistic career, I have often promised whistleblowers and sources that didn't want to be named that their identity will be confidential. And I believe in that so much because as journalists, we're not like lawyers, we're not like doctors, there's not like a bar association, a medical association that governs us. You're only worth your reputation. And if I were ever to burn a source, then my name is mud and forever mud. So if I was ever hauled before a court, and I'm not exaggerating, if a judge said to me, you have to reveal your source or you are in contempt of court, I've already got my speech planned, Tamara. I'd say, Your Honor, you can throw me in the cooler for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. It's not going to happen. This is a promise. It is sacred. It's like a priest in a confessional booth with someone confessing. That stays secret as well. I'm sorry, with all due respect, Your Honor, you're going to have to put me away before I reveal that. I really mean that. And to have this enacted as a law, as a regulation, this is beyond egregious. This is grotesque.
Yep. Well, and the irony here and the hypocrisy of the bureaucracy, which I say all the time, is that this comes the same week that this same government and Justin Trudeau himself celebrated press freedom as they tried to propose to limit those freedoms. I mean, this is just blatant in-your-face irony and hypocrisy. And again, I want to go back to this CBC article.
By the way, that's the same Press Freedom Day. I think it was back in 2018 or 2019. Super producer Efren and I went down to the Chorus headquarters. They were celebrating Free Press Day, and guess what? Yeah, we got frog marched out of the building. There's your blackface style free press. Oh, those rebel people?
Well,
No. Shoo. And all the things being championed. It was about diversity in the free press.
Yeah, of
like,
course.
Here is a transgender camera crew somewhere in Africa. Oh, give me a break.
Well, look at Alexa Lavoie. She actually tried to cover the Liberal convention on, I believe it was the Thursday.
Yep.
And she was kicked out of there, as I think that was quite literally the same day that Trudeau tweeted about upholding free press and democracy and all these things.
Yeah, and we had to go to a federal court judge both in 2019 and 2021.
Yes.
Our brilliant lawyer up against, was it 7 government lawyers, I believe, 5 or 7, and won each time. A judge, a neutral party, said, yes, this is a valid journalistic organization. These are journalists. We got in. And what happened? Well, the likes of Blackface and his little lapdog, Jagmeet Singh, they refused to take questions from us. And that is not just a slap in the face to the likes of my colleague Tamara Ugolini and Alexa Lavoie, that snub. It is a slap in the face to, well, on YouTube, what is it, 1.5 million subscribers we have?
I think more than that now.
You defied a court order allowing us in to that parliamentary, the election debates, rather. And it smacks of cowardice and hypocrisy. And for Blackface to tweet Happy Press Freedom Day, give me a break.
Seriously. Well, I wanted to go to that Michael Geist article because
Yes.
he's actually featured in this CBC, and I did one of my Ezra Levant show monologues on an access to information request that Michael Geist, he's a University of Ottawa law professor, and he's been following the censorship beat very heavily. He's kind of the go-to guy on information as it pertains to misinformation, the Liberals' censorship plans, sweeping regulation of the internet through Bill C-11, Bill C-18, and so on and so forth. And so he was actually featured in that CBC article that we pulled up, and he has his own blog post about it. And I don't want to go too far into it, so if you're interested, you can pull it up. And he's also on Twitter, so you can find all of his sharings there. But he just basically highlights how broad of a scope this is. It's ambiguously wording, as seems to be the flavor of the day with liberal legislation, is that they just word it so ambiguously so that it can be left to the interpretation of the enforcer, and no one really knows what the full scope of the legislation or the proposal will be. So we'll kind of leave you with that, because we want to throw to an ad break.
Yes.
With Mother's Day coming up. We have some Mother's Day specials in our store at rebelnewsstore.com, and we have a special promotional code. I think it's Mom 2023, where you can buy 2 t-shirts and get the third one for free. So let's just throw to a quick ad, and then we'll come back to talk about some more freedom of the speech, free expression, I should say, free expression issues we're having in Canada. Why don't you treat the mama bear in your life to some special Rebel gear this coming Mother's Day? Head on over to rebelnewsstore.com, where you can check out our fun designs like this mom identifies as a rebel, the one I'm wearing right now, Rebel Mom, and even some Rebel Grandma swag. We have hats, mugs, shirts, sweatshirts, even a fun tote bag, everything for the freedom-loving mom in your life. And for a limited time, you can buy 2 t-shirts and get the third one free using code MOM2023. Find it all at rebelnewsstore.com, and don't forget to use that code MOM2023 to get 2 t-shirts and the third free. Thank you for supporting our journalism while sporting some freedom-loving swag.
Oh, Tamara, as the saying goes, pretty in pink. You looked resplendent there. Is that okay, super producers? I'm not going to get in trouble with HR again, am I? Okay.
I can scold you here myself, David, but I won't. We have one super chat from N Mark. Thank you very much. They give $5. Your name is not Frank, it's David.
Oh, your name is not.
Maybe when I was referring to Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation and his work, maybe there was some confusion there. I'm not sure.
See.
But I'm well aware you're David Menzies. How could anyone get confused on that?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, I'll wear that as a badge of honor to be confused with Franco Terrazzano of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, folks, because he does fantastic work. I was guest hosting for Ezra yesterday. He was my guest about, how do you like your tax dollars at work right now? A government ministry spending thousands of dollars to do little videos about the sex lives of senior citizens in Canada. Yeah, like we really want to hear about that. And look how far the world has gone. 1968, Trudeau the first said words to the effect of the government has no business in the bedrooms of the nation. And now we've gone from that to under blackface. We want, I guess, the next generation version of the Sue Johansson show.
Yes.
Don't leave behind any details,
Well, we also had Theresa Tam promoting glory holes throughout the COVID narrative, so that wouldn't be the first time they've meddled in the bedroom happenings of Canadians.
Oh my goodness.
Remember? The glory holes.
Unbelievable.
Wear a mask too. You have to while you're engaging in the deed.
That's important.
Yeah.
Theresa
Stop the
Tam.
spread.
So we have up talk about maliciousness, Tamara Ugolini. Guess what? Both parents of Josh Alexander, he is the Crusader high school student. What a wonderful lad he is. Wise beyond his years. Courage like there's no tomorrow. Well, guess what? This kid who went to bat for female students who were offended by boys pretending to be girls to get into the girls' washroom and look under the stalls. Yeah, you'd think those culprits would get a detention. No. It was Josh Alexander going to bat for these gals, gets a suspension. When he tries to go to school, has the cops arrest him. This is in an Ottawa area school. And now, lo and behold, I didn't even know this, Tamara Ugolini. Apparently, both of Josh's parents are teachers in the area. And guess what? In what is, I think, an actionable, example of vindictiveness, both his parents have been suspended from their jobs. I just can't believe this. Let's roll what Josh Alexander had to say.
Yeah.
This morning, I found out that my mom has been put under investigation and removed from the classroom indefinitely. My dad had already been kicked out 2 weeks ago. He's also under investigation, and it would appear it's simply just because they're my parents. So I'm a young man. I'm ready to face the consequences of my actions. I just really wish it was me facing those consequences. I mean, they arrested me. They put me in cuffs in the back of the cruiser a couple times, but I don't care. I'm still fighting, and that's not going to discourage me. But it's just wrong that my family has to pay the price for that, just simply because I said that God made male and female in my classroom. And the consequences have been fairly significant up to this point.
Yeah, and that clip there comes from Media Bezirgan, so thank you for that important information, because otherwise we wouldn't know that Josh's parents have now been targeted by the regime who says that there are more than two genders, and for simply stating the science-backed stance that no, in fact, only two genders exist, and we should protect women's only spaces, because there was a whole civil rights movement that came up with the fact that they have those rights and freedoms that are all being ripped down and crushed by under the guise of inclusion and tolerance. And so we're no longer tolerating the people who simply wish to uphold those safe spaces for women only and continue to say, no, there's actually just male and female. I mean, this is the treatment that people are receiving.
Tamara, we know where the school weighs in. We know where the school board weighs in. Where the hell is the union? Teachers' unions are amongst the most militant you'll ever find in our Dominion. Or are they simpatico? I believe that's the issue. These are teachers against transanity? No. Sorry, suckers, your union dues aren't being used to defend you. But think of the perversity in the big picture, Tamara. We have at the Halton District School Board, Busty Lemieux, a teacher who I believe has a sexual fetish and should be kept kilometers away from children. That school board is so inept, they can't even enforce a dress code for teachers, much like they have for students, and even Halloween costumes, if you can believe it. And their solution, Tamara, is to tell Busty Lemieux to stay at home in his condo and collect full salary and benefits. Then at the Waterloo Catholic District School Board, we have a vile trustee by the name of Wendy Ashby. She said the most dangerous creature on the planet is a white male Christian. And the school board is protecting her. Evidently, they're down with that kind of racism, sexism, and anti-Christian hysteria, even though they are a Catholic school board. So they're going after journalists such as myself, Lincoln Jay, Miles at Campaign Life Coalition. Do you know what, folks? They have banned us for 2 years from getting on their property because we asked an impolite question. So again, the racist, sexist, anti-Christian teacher, that's not the problem. The messenger is, so shoot the messenger. And on the flip side, we have Josh Alexander taking a stand against transanity, taking a stand at mentally ill individuals trying to force this perverse agenda on us. And not only does he get booted from his class, but his parents are suspended. By the way, do we know if they're suspended with pay or not? Or do you have to wear Z-cup breasts to be suspended with pay in Ontario? And one last thing, Tamara. I'm talking to you, Stephen Lecce. You are a disgrace. You are supposed to be the Minister of Education all over this province. School boards too numerous to mention. They are out of control. They are woke. They are renegade. And you are what, in the fetal position, sucking your thumb? I mean, grow a set, for God's sakes. You can disband these school boards and you're doing nothing. What a disgrace you are. You stole that nomination in King Vaughan. Yeah, I was there. I saw it in 2016. And now that you are a minister, you do nothing. You are the one that deserves the most amount of blame.
David Menzies, ladies and gentlemen, telling you exactly how he feels.
Well, there's some nuance there, I think. But.
Well, and I want to mention, too, that these aren't just people who are struggling with mental illness, under the trans label, because we know that there are a lot of comorbidities at play here with the gender dysphoria stuff, and there's often autism and other behavioral and body image issues. But this is also an issue where anyone who can willy-nilly decide to flip their gender and start identifying as a woman and gain access into women's prisons, women's change rooms, family change rooms, children's bathrooms, minors. I mean, this is so concerning and far-reaching and broad. And so there's that issue in and of itself that anyone can just say, well, actually, no, I decide to identify as a woman. And they can have a track record of, sexual deviancy, sexual perversion, actual criminal history, and they can be welcomed into the Women's Healing Lodge and housed with women and girls.
Tamara, with all due respect, I have to correct you. Not anyone gets to play the system that way when it comes to prisons and gender identity, and I'll tell you why. If I ever got arrested, I could say, I'm a chick, I'm a gal, and right off the bat, and I go to the...
You have the breasts now, so you could fit
there
the part.
There you go, and that would be, and I'd be allowed in with them, folks, because that's my gender-affirming articles, you see. So they'll accommodate me, they'll put me in the Kitchener Female Penitentiary, no problem, but if Tamara got charged and found guilty of anything and said, you know what, I'm a dude, I want to spend my time in a male penitentiary, guess what? Request denied. And the reason? Well, the guards don't want to be bothered 24/7 protecting my beloved colleague from getting assaulted, sexually assaulted, or perhaps even worse. Yeah, so you see, they don't even believe the horseshite they subscribe to. If it's a man saying a woman, we'll do everything we can and let the female convicts get re-victimized. But when it's a woman, it's vice versa. That's too much work for the guards. So, request denied. What do you make of that?
I always just go back personally. The bathroom thing really bothers me because male bathrooms are notoriously disgusting. Like, women at least keep, the seats are tidy, everything for the most part, right? I remember as a child, I was raised primarily by my dad. And so when we were using public bathrooms out with my father, we would have to use the male's bathroom, and he would always shield our eyes, and, he would have to wipe everything. And just comparing the two different bathroom experiences, even from being a child, you could see the clear difference in the way that those bathrooms are maintained hygienically. And so all of the perversion and this aside, there is a clear difference hygiene-wise in a male versus a female bathroom, and where we would want children to be using those facilities. And as a parent, too, this very much concerns me that you can't trust to send your child into a women's bathroom because they may be confronted by a biological male in there, and who knows what they would see or be exposed to. So,
but Tamara, at the end of the day, and you've touched upon it, what this really is, I believe, it's a war on women, as in biological
it's misogyny.
women.
It's quite literally misogyny 101.
Yep. And it's a war on the family. And here I called out Lecce, that pathetic excuse for an education minister. I'm going to call out to the feminist movement. Where the hell are you chicks when it comes to the rights of biological females? Like the people that comprise about 4 billion souls on this planet? Or do you subscribe to trans women are real women, that horse shite? Do you? And you're throwing your entire constituency under the bus? It seems like that way to me, Tamara.
Yeah, likewise. And I just want to say that we had one super chat from Fraser McBurney. He gives $5. Thanks, Fraser. As a youth, my mom was always at home to take care of her family. My father was the breadwinner. Back then, you could live on one person working. Try that now. Yeah, that was exactly my point during the last segment, is that under the liberal regime and the increase in taxes and the bloated bureaucracy, you can no longer survive with children at home on one income. And that garners them even more taxes, doesn't it? So maybe let's throw to...
By the way, Fraser McBurney always used block caps. Is he yelling at us?
He's really set on the caps lock.
Couple of minutes.
Yeah, you were really telling us how you feel there, David. Do you want to talk about the Toronto mayoral candidate there that you did that video on, and then we'll throw to a quick ad break?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So we've reached out. By the way, open invitation. And my goodness, how this story changes by the day. On Friday, when we interviewed Rob Davis, who, unlike so many other candidates, he's actually been elected as a school board trustee, as a member of city council. And he's a good man. We at the time, it was 67 candidates. So I said, one down, 66 to go. Well, as of today, it's 73
Wow.
candidates.
Wow.
Another 6 have entered the race. And basically, I think Rob Davis is a solid candidate. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I like his policies, i.e. putting a halt to bike lanes, which are creating so much traffic congestion in the city. And also, as you can see, this is a black individual. And I bring that up, the race, because there is this proposal that's ongoing to rename Toronto city streets. It's going to cost millions and millions of dollars, starting with Dundas. And he is against that. And by the way, Tamara, what they do in cities like London, England, if there was a street named after someone who might have an unsavory past, they don't spend millions coming up with a new name. And by the way, that's only the city costs. Think of all the businesses that have to change their stationery, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
They put up a plaque and they basically say, in hindsight 2020, and they give the story. I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with that if it's going to save tens of millions of dollars for a virtue signaling exercise. So
it's like a land acknowledgement, but individual streets and people.
Absolutely. And there was a huge, it starts with Dundas. I think there's like 43 street names in Toronto that are problematic. Funnily enough, one is Ryerson. And where I interviewed Mr. Davis, that was on the campus of Ryerson University, or whatever the hell it's called now, TMU, TMJ.
Yeah,
I used
TMJ.
to go there. I mean, yeah. It's so basically open invitation. Anyone that's watching, that if you're running for mayor, or you know of someone running for mayor, we want to give everyone their 2 cents worth. And I don't know if we were going to throw to a clip of Rob Davis speaking or not.
No,
but,
just stay
okay.
tuned, or you can check out David's report. But we're going to go to a quick ad. But before we do that, I want to let everyone know who's joining us on YouTube that we will cut our YouTube stream because we're going to come back and talk about some COVID nitty-gritty things that go against certain platforms' community standards. So if you're joining us on YouTube, you can head on over to Rumble, Getter, Twitter, or perhaps even Locals. The description should be viewable in the description box below where you're streaming this. And so if you just click on one of those links, you can mitigate over to one of those other platforms. We're going to throw to a quick ad break. And when we come back, we will no longer be on YouTube. So our stream will cut there. So head on over to one of those other platforms and we'll see you back in just a few seconds.
The media said that Canadian truckers were Russian agents controlled by Vladimir Putin. Justin Trudeau called them extremists.
The small fringe minority.
We are here out of love for our families, our communities.
And the government put the country under martial law to stop them. But what's the real story?
If you can't see the future in clear outline right now, you're not paying attention. But the truckers in Canada can.
And I want you to know that I am not afraid.
For the first time, the woman at the heart of the trucker convoy speaks out.
Hold the line.
Tamara Leach, passionate organizer, loving mother and grandmother, proud Métis and proud Albertan, and defiant political prisoner jailed for daring to criticize the government. Tamara Leach. Her new book, Hold the Line, My Story from the Heart of the Freedom Convoy, is the inside scoop of what really happened. You've heard from the media and the convoy's critics. Now hear the truth from the woman who inspired the world and made Justin Trudeau blink. Visit theconvoybook.com to order your copy now.
And Tamara, one last point about the Toronto election, and this is